I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Hi, everybody. Ron here from The Truth About Addiction. Today we have a guest coming to us from Indonesia, Ahearn. So welcome to The Truth About Addiction, Jack. And what's your story, my brother? What's your story, mate?
Morning, thank you. Oh, it's not morning, it's afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean, the easiest way to start it, because there's a decent amount there, is today I'm 25 years old and I haven't had a drink or drug since I was 17.
Beautiful.
So prior to wanting to stop using substances, there was a heavy addiction predominantly to methamphetamine. The way that I think of it is that, you know, from the ages of 14 to just before I turned 18, it was the thing that I did every single day, from morning to noon to night, and there was no breaks in between. And the unfortunate or fortunate truth of it was that if I hadn't gone down that path, more than likely I would have had the opportunities, whether it was in AFL, cricket, something along those lines. So it was the trajectory of where I was going was rather that, but for whatever reason, the substances took control. And
yep.
from the age of about 15 was where the heavy use really sparked off, and it became, you know, large quantities, lots of drug dealing, problems with the police, problems with that stuff, moving out of home, living on the street, living with, you know, in drug houses and all the bits and bobs that come with that kind of lifestyle. But through all of that, which I didn't even realize until like I was 2 years clean, I've always thought that was kind of the pinnacle of what my life could be. But the problem was that I'd gone from being, you know, a prepubescent teenager into a heavy narcotic world. So I didn't know anything else outside of those two things. And for me, it was like, oh wow, this is fantastic, and it was phenomenal, you know. And I was in this whole scene and scenario where, you know, I had more money than people should have at that age. I had more fun, so I perceived the fun at that age. But, you know, I wasn't doing any of the normal things that someone who's a 15, 16, 17-year-old should be doing. They should be going to school, getting a job, getting a trade, doing things that are good for them, you know. And I mean, that just was this continual thing that happened every single day between 14 to 18, and it was non-stop. I think the longest I ever had without the use of substances in that time was about 2 weeks. And when I tried to do that, my body shut down. So the whole period, for that whole period of my life, was just drugs, and more drugs. And it really just took everything of me as a human being away from me. You know, like I come from a good family with good parents and good values and good upbringing and all that stuff. Like, I don't come from a broken home or a traumatic, you know, influence in my life. Like, I come from a really, really good place, and it was just unfortunate or fortunate. I look at it as fortunate now, unfortunate at the time that was the direction that I took it in that part of my life.
What area did you grow up in?
My family's in Perth, in Western Australia.
Cool. And, you know, from 14 to 17, you're one of the very few people I speak to that, you know, you just missed out on your whole, you know, puberty, adolescence. And I was exactly the same. You know what I mean? I was living with a 28-year-old woman when I was 15. You know what I mean? I wasn't drinking and drugging. I had other issues long before I took a drug, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, see, I was living with a 51-year-old.
Yeah.
There's dysfunction there.
Oh, it's crazy, you know, and we don't understand that the shit we're missing out on. The stuff that makes us into productive members of society. We miss that completely. We just miss the whole, you know, the growing up, the hanging out with the kids, having the giggles and the laughs, you know, everything's, because, you know, in drug addiction, it's just so intense. You know, there's no laughing and giggling.
Yeah, like, you know, I didn't realize the things that I didn't know how to use a washing machine. I didn't know how to pay a bill. I didn't know manners. I didn't know you lose all that stuff, you know, like just general life life skills and daily things that you need. Like, how do you use a washing machine? I don't know how to use a washing machine. You know, like how do you pay a bill? I don't know how to pay a bill.
Yeah.
You know, and then also all the experiences that, you know, you look back on as fond memories generally through that period of your life. You're going clubbing, you know, you're just discovering certain aspects of life and being an adult. It's like, I don't have any of them. I have them, but they're in a different capacity.
Yeah. It's quite, to me, it's nice to hear it, because I don't like being the only one. You know, I mean, because my story is a really bad upbringing, really bad family, crime, massive crime, violence, prisons, institutions, and I never took a drug till I was 19. So this was all before I ever took a drug. I was completely screwed up before I took a drug. So when I found drugs were a relief to me. So you were the other spectrum, that drugs started off as fun and laughter and ended up in tears.
Yeah, because the way I think of it is that it was fun, and then it was always in the back of my head, like, I'll just stop and I'll play footy. And it was always this internal dialogue. I've just stopped, when I feel like it. I don't feel like stopping right now, so I don't need to stop. But when I need to stop, I'll just stop. And then I'll just go and play footy or go play cricket or whatever it was. And then I remember I tried to stop, and it was like, oh, geez, this isn't actually, one, it's not possible. But in that moment, I'm like, oh, don't know if I can do this as easily as you thought. And then I try and stop, and it lasts for, I don't know, 24 hours. And then I'm going, oh, wow, this isn't what it's meant to be. And then I think it's around that kind of point where it's like, well, it's not really so much the fun anymore, like it's for one, it's 7 days a week. It's not 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And two, it's if I don't have it or I don't use it, I'm not able to function, which was, I remember realizing that when I was around 16 years old, and just going, Jesus Christ, like, this isn't how life's meant to be. But just pushing that thought away and trying to forget about it really quickly.
Yeah. So you never worked? You just went straight to the streets, or you worked, or?
I mean, I had a couple of little jobs here and there. Normally what I would try and do is I would try and get a job because, my parents are incredible human beings. So trying to get a job to keep them, like, I've got a job, but realistically, I never really, I mean, I worked in 2 or 3 little kickers, sort of wash dishes, serve ice cream, whatever the hell it was. But I remember I got fired from them all very quickly. And then it just became, let's just, sell drugs and do this and do that, because it was much easier, and it just suited the things I wanted to do at that time.
Most of your mates your age were doing what?
They were doing what normal people would do. So they were, I suppose you could say, like, recreational, trial and ecstasy, things like that. Like, but nothing, down the line of methamphetamine and the things that come under that category. But I moved away from those group of friends, and then found different sort of friends that would do the things or be okay with the things that I was doing. So, I gravitated towards the people that it was acceptable to do what I was doing, and lost touch with a lot of the people who I was good friends with that were good people, but they just weren't doing that stuff. And obviously they don't want to be around me when I'm doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. But they were always still there. They were just doing things that a normal teenager would be doing, and then they see me doing what I'm doing, they go, I don't really want to be involved in that.
When I was 19, I went from smoking pot to using heroin. And our house used to be like what you call a trap house these days. Everyone would come to our place, and everyone smoked pot. We'd listen to Pink Floyd, listen to music. And then I started using heroin, and fully, like, I didn't sort of have a little bit. I loved it. The first time I injected heroin, that was life on life's terms. And I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, how come nobody comes around here anymore? After about 3 or 4 or 5 months, no one came to the house. And she said, why would they come here? All you do is sit on the couch and nod off. To me, it was like, what the fuck's going on? Where's all my buddies? Where's all my party friends, and smoking a bit of pot and doing a bit of acid and going to a discotheque? All of a sudden, I'm injecting intravenous heroin and nodding off and burning my arms and burning the couches. And she was like, have a look at you. Why would anybody want to come around and hang out with you?
Yeah.
It just happens so subtly, so insidious, the way that the disease takes over our life. And as you said, then we started looking for other people who are as bad as we are. And I used to always look down upon other people like, oh, at least I'm not taking barbs. At least I'm not taking, like these days, I'm not taking Xannies, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Well, I was poisoning myself with my poison of choice,
Yeah, no, I suppose I did the similar with I didn't intravenously inject things. I didn't put needles in my arm, but I damn well look, I compared myself to someone who did, because I'm going, oh, well, at least I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
When there's no difference, like that's just what someone's choosing, and then also the absolute disregard for, like you said, like I'm doing all these things. Why would anyone want to be around that? You're up, let's say 7 days a week. No, people don't want to come and hang out with you at midnight on a Wednesday. Like it's irrational. If someone would ask me now to go and hang out with them on midnight on any day, let alone a Wednesday, I'm going, you're dreaming. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that?
Yeah. Normal people aren't awake fucking 3 or 4 days in a row.
No.
Going into psychosis. For me, my experience with methamphetamines is after 2 days. In the beginning, it was 2 or 3 days. Then I'd start seeing the shadow people. Then I'd start looking at the window and I'd see them hiding behind cars or hiding behind trees. Then I'd start getting the audio psychosis where I'd hear them. He's in there. He's in, And then for me, methamphetamine was a very mentally unstabling drug where I started to believe my lies. With heroin, I didn't care. With methamphetamine, I really believed that people were trying to get me. I laid on the floor for hours looking under the door, all that stuff that, finding a piece of cotton and playing with it for 2 hours. I completely plucked my beard one night. I had like a 4-day growth, and I plucked it with a pair of tweezers. I stood in a bathroom for something like 5 hours and completely plucked my whole beard because I was completely insane, So when I hear people that took meth for a long time, I think you're so lucky that you got out with your brain intact.
Because one thing that my friends always thought was that I had the body movements too. So the real stereotypical, the twitching and the arm movements and the irrational muscle twitches and all that stuff. And we never thought that would leave me. My family, I think, as well, but my friends definitely. And it took about 6 months for that stuff to actually settle down. So it's, like if that's just the effect that's having on, your muscle systems and your nervous system and stuff, that it's making your body, respond in an erratic way. The brain stuff's phenomenal, because I was similar, but it was usually a little bit longer time span, where it would be, if I was awake for about 5 days, then I would start seeing things like that. And then if it was longer than 5 days, between 5 to 10 days, then the audio stuff would pop in and all that type of stuff. But you kind of nailed it, where it's in that state of mind, the ability to believe my own shit and the ideas and the things that would come up and the lies and all that kind of stuff, and the things I'm telling myself about this person and the drones following me and the helicopters and there's someone outside and all that stuff is just irrational and very, very time consuming is one way to look at it, but also just what kind of effect that has on a brain and the structure of a human. It can't be good. Like, I don't know if it's really possible to prove it, but to be living in that state of mind for considerable periods of time is just horrible.
I've been in recovery now, with 37 years. I've been clean. I've been in recovery for 42 years, and I've watched the different drugs over the years. And to me, the new ice age is the worst thing I've seen in my lifetime. It's the worst thing I've seen. I look at the fentanyl that's going on in America at the moment. They've got the streets full of fentanyl. I remember when the cross was like that. It was, like with heroin. People were sleeping always with heroin, but it was nothing like the fentanyl. And as far as I'm concerned, I've never seen anything like the ice. I meet people. I still go to a 12-step program. I see people come in. I had a guy yesterday. We're talking to him. I said, "You're on ice." He goes, "Yeah, how'd you know?"
Yeah.
He's twitching away, his legs pumping, and it just shows me. It goes, wow, the central nervous system's shot.
Yeah.
The central nervous system is completely shot. So for any listeners that don't really understand exactly what we're talking about. Ice is methamphetamine. Were you smoking it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been told, I'm not a meth user, so I don't really know. I was an intravenous meth user back in the day when it was just, we called it speed. Long before pseudoephedrine came in, from when the real ephedrine came in, which was pure, like you guys were smoking similar stuff. But the effects were exactly the same. But everyone I talk to that smokes it tells me it's a really addictive drug really quickly. Like you get a dependency on it very, very quickly. I have mates who really stuff their lives up, because what they do is they use meth, then they use heroin to stop the meth, then they use meth and use that, and a lot of them die. A lot of them guys end up by ODing trying to get over the meth. What was your catalyst for saying to yourself, I've got to stop this? What made you get to that point where you thought, I've had enough?
There was between so I stopped in May 2016, and between January and May there were a lot of external problems that kept occurring in my life. So there was the second police raid that I was in within 6 months, that was in February 2016, which ended up landing the person who I was living with in prison for a period of time. And the only reason that I really didn't go to prison that day or through that period was because I was a minor and I didn't have a legal guardian. So if I had had a legal guardian by my side, the police could have prosecuted me. Yeah. Because I didn't have a legal guardian, they were unable to prosecute me. The charges went to the other person. And then from that, there was repercussions for him getting in trouble, not me. There was some debt owed. Some people came and they rode off my mother's car in the front yard. I wasn't at home, thank God, because if I was at home, they probably would have broken through the front door. And through that process, they totaled her car. I think it got written off. My sister's room's next to the front door. It's traumatizing for everyone. No one wants that in their life. You don't want that. Yeah. It would have been probably Monday or Tuesday morning. I don't remember the exact day. I saw that kind of stuff was happening, but then still I was continuing to do the things that I was doing. But I think it was about 2 months after that. So I've had that happen. All this other stuff's happening. Like the world was just closing in on me. There was people that wanted to hurt me. There was all this kind of things that were occurring. And I mean, the fun had definitely gone. And for whatever reason, all of that, I believe, plus just an internal not wanting to suffer anymore, for whatever reason, it was on April 23rd, 2016 was the first time I'd asked for help effectively, and it was a mutual decision between myself and my family to go to treatment. There's no specific thing that happened that day, that week, or that last 2 weeks, but for whatever reason that day, it seemed like the right thing to do, and I was okay with it, and they were okay with it. And from then, it took 9 days to get me into a rehab. But from there was where the decision was made. It was taken out of my hands. I was committed to it. I'm like, fuck, I've had enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. But the actual day, that week, there was no specific reason. I just believed that it was the right place, right time. Something intervened and sort of pulled me out of it and gave me a second chance.
Yeah, I believe that 100%, that something intervened.
I
do. I always believe, if you look at all the coincidences that lead to our getting clean, people go, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Mate, I was sick and tired for years before I gave up. What you said too, the joy had gone out of my addiction, out of my using, out of active addiction. The joy had gone. It was hard work. Doing the same thing every day to get stoned, and then, it just stopped working for me. And so you went to a rehab?
My parents signed me up for 60 days. Which I was fine with. And the original plan was I'd go there for 60 days. I was going to turn 18 3 days before I left, and then leave after that. And I think I was in there for about 10 days when I knew I'd be in there for a while. I held on to the idea that it was only going to be 60 days, but I knew I was going to be in there for a while. Like I realized that this is kind of a slow process and it's not a magic fix, and that it was actually the right place to be. And so I think after 50 odd days, we extended it to 3 months in there, which inevitably ended up being like 6 months, half of it in like a transitional program, half of it in there. And then after the transitional program was volunteering. But from the moment I was in there, I went, oh, Jesus, this is actually quite a difficult process. Like, I was naive. Again, it was this detachment from reality and what's required in life. Like, there was a naivety to it all, where I thought that it was just, you go in, they fix you, and then you leave. But again, for whatever reason, like, I was in that place, people told me suggestions. I respected the people that were in there, and they told me that I should probably be in here for quite some time. And for whatever reason, I trusted them and took their advice. And by taking their advice, I got out of my own way and sort of allowed the magic of it all to happen. And what happened was that my life transformed really fast, and it made it really attractive to stay in there, where that's not everyone's sort of experience with it all, but mine was that it all changed really quickly, and then it became really exciting to keep doing it.
Yeah. I say to people today, people ask me, oh, you still treat your recovery, as something sacred, and that's still your priority. And I say, mate, if using was better than recovery, I'd still be using. That's my nature. But recovery is so good, I would do nothing to throw it away. I would never do anything to jeopardize my recovery. I've never found anything as rewarding as recovery. There's been some hard times, sure. And it takes a bit of discipline, a bit of hard work. But you know what, mate? Using takes a lot of discipline and hard work too. I find recovery so much easier than using. I only have to spend a couple of hours a day on my recovery. I have to spend a whole freaking 24 hours a day on my using. My whole day was revolved around finding ways and means to get more, and using drugs. Nothing else mattered. I never seen anything as monetary. If I got something, it was a Rolex watch, I'd say I can get an ounce and a half for that.
Yeah.
There was no money value to it. I can get an ounce and a half to that. I sold my car on a weekend, for a low amount of money because it was on a relapse. And my brain told me, sell the car, buy half ounce of heroin, and we'll make up the deals, and we'll buy a new car next week, and we'll make all this money. I used a lot.
Of course.
I was my own best customer. I was a terrible drug dealer,
Yeah.
You got clean, you're living in Western Australia. And how did you end up in Bali, mate?
No, so the rehab was in Bali. So
okay, cool.
Because of all the external problems and the all that, it just it seemed like a good idea to get me out of the country for a little while.
Yeah.
That was how it sort of ended up being here. And also, to be honest, there's not a very good rehab system in Perth. Your best options from Perth is to fly to Melbourne or to Asia, and it's easier and more attractive to fly to Asia for treatment.
I know, I'd rather be go to cold Melbourne and go to sunny Bali.
Exactly.
Bikinis or wearing burqas. I know where I'm going.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. So you went to Bali, you got clean over there, and you found a group of people over there that you've tied up in with and made it your life.
Pretty much. I mean, like, there's sort of been a few different phases of it all where, the initial phase was like heavily involved with 12-step program. And that was the core support network around me that helped me find my feet and sort of show me how to control and manage my life in a sort of honorable manner. And without that absolutely wouldn't have been possible. And through that, I joined the football club here, which I didn't know was here. So then I got sort of my taste back into AFL, and then there was that community as well. And then since COVID and then post-COVID, I've sort of had a whole flip on everything. Like, there's still those two involved in my life, but I've got all these other different things that have sprouted out from it, with hobbies that I didn't even know, that things that I would enjoy doing that have, become really integral parts of how I live my life and the things I want to do, which is just, it's just exciting. Like, it's the best, every year has been the best year, for the last 7. Every single one is the best one by absolute far.
I got news for you. She's getting better.
Yeah.
I used to hear people say that. It gets better, and I think, fucking for you it might. And after I was 10 years clean, they said it gets better, and I'm like, for you it might. 20, it still kept on getting better. 30, it's still getting better. I'm 37 years clean. It's like, man, it still keeps getting better.
Exactly.
Every year gets better. I never found anything in my life that brings me as much joy as being clean. Self-worth, pride, self-love, pride of achievement of pride. I'm a real big believer in that. I believe that when I set goals and I achieve them, I achieve goals. I achieve pride in myself, and I achieve self-worth. And the things that I was capable of doing in recovery was mind-blowing. My achievements are just, the only thing that limits me is my imagination.
Exactly.
Everything I've done in recovery, I've been successful at, except for crime. I'm not good at crime, but I don't want to be good at crime anymore. It's really nice. It's, my life's changed to a point where I like being a straighty 180. And this, I have beautiful friends, beautiful family, and I know you're doing something with running or something.
Yeah, so that started in, I've always run with footy stuff, but during COVID, and it's kind of like what you said, the only thing that limits you is your imagination. So during COVID, I decided I'm going to run a double marathon to raise money for people who lost their jobs during the pandemic. And I'd never run more than like 20 kilometers in one go. And then, so what I decided on the map of Bali is I'll run from the top to the bottom. And I did that, and I raised enough money to feed 250,000 people, which was incredible. And then from that, it just sort of progressed. It's it's the exact same as a drug addiction. Like it's just the progression of, I did that. What can I do next? What can I do next? And so I did that, which was 84 kilometers. And then 6 months later, I ran 100 kilometers in 12 hours or something. And then through that, I decided I wanted to, with my best mate, we'd start a non-profit organization about connecting exercise and mental health and promoting awareness around, substance use, mental health, and all that stuff within the Indonesian community. And then after that, it progressed to running for 24 hours around a soccer field, which I ran 150 kilometers. We raised, I don't know, like $60,000 through that to then, provide free mental health education and all that stuff to the Indonesians. And it's become a full-time job that's done in my part-time, where, like, for example, right now, I'm 2 months away from trying to run 200 kilometers in 24 hours. And it's all tied into the non-profit organization, raising money to promote mental health awareness, drug abuse awareness, all that kind of stuff. But I've found real purpose, passion, and fulfillment through doing that. I think it ties into the structure, the routine, the healthy habits, all that kind of stuff. It really plays on that, which I thrive in. But then being able to utilize it as a vessel to sort of give back to the community and the people around has been really, 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 really fun. And it's really changed my life the last three or so years.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I agree 100%. The gifts of giving are the most beautiful things you can have. Doing something for somebody else is an incredibly rewarding thing to do. And I was explaining to one of my clients the other day, I'm always going to be an addict. I'm addicted now to helping people. I'm addicted to recovery. I'm always going to have this addictive personality. And it sounds like you've turned your addiction into running, helping people.
Pretty much. Like it's... when someone asks about my drug addiction, the easiest way I can relate it is, if you look at, like, a normal person wants to run 10Ks, I enjoy running 100. And that and then being able to do that and help others and inspire others has just been such an interesting thing, because now I've been doing it for like over 3 years, but it fell into my lap by accident. Without the pandemic, without all that stuff, it probably wouldn't have ever happened.
I believe in a higher power. And I believe my higher power keeps his anonymity by doing stuff by coincidence.
Exactly.
I'm a big believer in that. I don't know if you know my story at all, but I went back to prison at 16 years clean. And, it's not a good place to go back to when you're 16 years clean. And
No.
I was so lucky. I went to a prison where the governor believed in rehabilitation, and he gave me a whole unit, and I started a drug rehab. All these guys got clean because of this drug rehab, and they all got the message. And, you know, I'm still friends with some of those guys today, with a lot of those guys today. A lot of those guys had never been out of prison for more than a week to 2, 3 to 5 weeks. Now they've been out of prison for many years. So, you know, my higher power works in funny ways. You know, like there's some really weird shit happening in my life, which at the time you think are horrible, but have turned out to be incredibly wonderful gifts that I've been able to carry through life. And you're still very young and you're still giving so much, and you've got so much to give, mate. I hope you're aware of how much you're changing other people's lives.
I appreciate it. Probably, honestly, I detach from it all, like, because it's become so normal in my life that this is just what I do. Like, I've been sober, I don't drink, I don't drug. I used to be a drug addict. I like running and I do these good things, but it's nice when you hear it every now and then, because you forget, and I'm detached from, you know, that's not the normal sort of trajectory of most people's lives, and that it's not a normal sort of weekly schedule. You know, like my weekly schedule is much different than a lot of other schedules, but I wouldn't change it in the world. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, it excites me. Like, right this moment, I'm planning a 50, somewhere around 40 to 60 kilometer run this Saturday, as you know, and I get excited about it. Like, that's the most exciting thing, you know, that's happened this week, where you know, if I can do that and it can inspire someone to do something that's good for themselves, it's not the reason why you do it, but it's a pretty good byproduct of doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I got a good mate over there. We got a bar over there. You know him, Mickey. You know, he's a really good friend of mine. He's a good human being. And he always calls me the great Ronnie, you know. And Glenn, his partner, gave me, you know, Glenn was one of the best footballers in AFL history. And I've got a plaque on my wall over there of all pictures of Glenn doing all these marks and all this stuff. You know, it's a little, you know, collage of Glenn being famous, and it says on the top of it, "To Ronnie, thank you for saving so many lives. Much love, Glenn." And to me, it's such a beautiful gift to have, but I'm like, I take it for granted, because I do this every day. What I do every day, and I've been doing it for a long, long time, but it's just what I like doing. And I do it because I actually get fulfillment, and the byproduct is that other people get help and other people get freedom from active addiction. But the real reason I do it, I guess, to be honest, is because it makes me feel good. Yeah, that's the truth. If it made me feel bad, I wouldn't be doing it. But that's why I stopped using drugs, because they stopped making me feel good. And I didn't like the person I became. That's the honest truth. You know, I didn't like the person I became to have to be a drug addict. And I didn't like being non-productive. Because today I can honestly say I'm a productive member of society. And it's such a great gift, you know. Someone to get clean at 17 years of age. I've been around a long time. I've been around over 40 years. Not many people get clean at 17 years of age. And that's why it's so important for me to have you on this podcast, so that the listeners can hear that they're young and they go like, so many excuses. Oh, I'm still young. I'll be all right. They think they've got time. Sometimes they haven't got time, mate.
Yeah.
You know, do you find that people go, oh, wow, that was so young. Yeah. But they don't understand the 3 years you had before you got clean were fucking horrific.
Yep.
You know, because no one stops at 17 years of age unless they've had enough.
Oh, exactly. Unless you fucking have to.
Yeah.
You don't do it by mistake.
No, I laugh because I have this crazy fucking imagination. I spent a lot of years in prison alone, so you do a lot of thinking. And I believe, we get so many, just say you get 4,874 hits in your lifetime. You just already fucking used them all quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Put them in a blender and drink it all at once.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I was the same, mate. Half measures avail me nothing. Half measures avail me nothing in recovery. But I love success stories. And you know what, my friend? You are a success story.
I appreciate that.
I really appreciate what you do. Mick spoke to me and said, mate, you got to speak to this young fella. He did. Mick said, mate, Because
Yeah.
you got to remember, his son got clean at 17 too.
I know.
You know, and I love his family. I love him. I love his family. We become really good friends, and it's all because of recovery. And people understand that recovery is a gift that you have to keep giving. You can only keep by giving it away. I know it's cliche, and I know it's all that shit, but it's true.
Yeah.
I'm not a cliche type of person. I'm a real, this is what works, this is what don't work. If it don't work, fuck it off. If it works, keep doing it, And, you've got a really good crew over there. And, mate, a lot of recovery is about taking care of your mental health, whether it be through exercise, whether it be prayer and meditation, whether it be on a yoga mat or surfing. I don't give a rat's ass what you use. You've got to have something. You've got to be contributing to something that's worthwhile in your life. And you seem
something that gets you excited to get out of bed. We have a counsellor we all see over here, and she talks about getting horny for life. That's the catchphrase.
Nice, yeah.
Something that just gets you a bit excited, up and about.
It's true. It's true. You've got to, you've got to be excited. You've got to want to do things. You've got to be turned on, is a good word. Turned on by what you're doing. I get up every morning, and I'm excited to see clients, because I work my clients every morning. I love watching their growth, because I have a book for each client. After about 30 days, I read them the first 3 or 4 pages. And they all look and go like, fuck, because I write things like no motivation, lazy fuck, self-pity, blah, blah, blah. I write this whole list of defects. And then after 30 days, we talk, and I say, this is what you were in the first 30 days. Blah, 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 blah. And I say, this is what you are today. Motivated, fucking conscious, open, accepting, reliable, congruent, thorough. And they're like, whoa, fuck, in 30 days. I say, mate, what's it going to be like in 30 years? This is what you've achieved in 30 days. The only thing you can't do is pick up. Nothing else is impossible. So what's your plans for the future, mate?
Oh, I mean, so we've ideally, I want to set some world records. I want to. At the moment, right, we've got a non-profit, and I work full time over here. Ideally, maybe in the next 5 years, to maybe move into the non-profit as more of a full-time job, and put all my focus into that. But I think it's 2020. What year is it? 2020, 2025. I want to set the world record running across Australia.
Okay.
So Perth to Bondi, 43 days. And then just be able to do these kind of things and have fun in my life and fulfillment in my life, but also, in a way that's sustainable, and just in continuing on with the things I've done in the last sort of 3 to 5 years. Because I just love it. Like, I get so excited about all these different things.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. No, mate, I hope you do it. And I've got no doubt that you will do it.
I think so.
If you want to. I really believe if you choose to, you want to, and you set your mind and you go like, no, I'm going to do that. I believe you will do it. Mate, you stop using drugs, you can do anything.
Exactly.
That's my attitude towards everything.
It's the
I
truth.
stop using drugs, I can do anything.
Yeah.
Because not everybody gets the taste that we've got, and it takes an incredible amount of courage to stop using drugs and to maintain a recovery. It really does. As I say all the time, it's the hardest job I've ever done, but it's the most rewarding.
Yeah.
So, Jack, mate, it's been a pleasure having you on The Truth About Addiction. I really enjoyed listening to you. I feel your passion. I do, and I feel your excitement for life. And you know what, mate? At 25, man, fuck me dead. You got such a head start. You got no excuses, brother. You got no excuses, man.
No. Don't worry, I don't need any.
You've got such a fucking wonderful career ahead of you and life ahead of you. And thanks for coming on, mate. And I really do respect what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I know you're helping people over there, and I know you're carrying a message, and you're carrying your message through your sport as well. By doing your running, I know you're helping people. And mate, as I said to you, I was introduced to you by a guy that I have a lot of respect for. I think it's a really good human being who actually helps people, and he he's very good with many. He's a good judge of people. So for him to recommend you, you came really highly recommended. And as you said before, off speed, we have a lot of people that we know each other, and mate, you're in good hands. So Jack Ahearn, thank you very much for coming on The Truth About Addiction.
Thank you very much.
If people want to follow you and people want to see what you're doing in Bali, what have you got a name for your non-profit organisation, or?
You can find my Instagram is a good starting point with Jack Ahearn, Ahearn, and then the other one is Shuffle and Strides. Shuffle and Strides. That's an easy one to find.
All right, mate. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.